Everyone tells you the woods go quiet when a predator moves through. Nobody tells you what it means when the woods go quiet and nothing ever shows up. Marcus had hiked the Sipsey for 8 years. Alabama backcountry, thick hardwood, canyon country, the kind of place where the sound never really stops. Frogs, insects, the creek, something always moving. He'd made camp at dusk on a bench above the water. Small fire going, doing the thing you do on a solo night. Just sitting with it, letting the dark come in. Around 11, the sound stopped. Not faded, stopped. All of it at once, like the whole canyon held its breath. And Marcus had spent enough nights out there to know what it means when the frogs and insects cut off together. Something has walked into the middle of them. He put his back to the fire and waited. A bear, a hog, a cat. He'd met all of them out there, and none scared him the way this quiet did. Then he heard the footsteps, past the firelight, maybe 40 feet out. Slow, deliberate. And here's the part he keeps coming back to. They were bipedal. 2 feet, a steady left-right, left-right, the rhythm of something walking upright, pacing a slow circle around his camp just past where the light reached. He called out, "The way you do. Hey, somebody there." The footsteps stopped, dead, and nothing answered. He sat with a flashlight in one hand and a knife in the other, and he did not sleep. Every so often the steps started again, always the same distance, always circling, always stopping the second he made a sound. It went on until the sky started to gray. Then one last set of steps moving off, and the frogs came back like a switch had flipped. At first light he went to look, because he had to know. And this is why I put his story first. There was nothing, no prints. The ground around his camp is soft. Sand and leaf litter and damp creek bank, the kind that holds a deer track clean for days. His own boot prints were all over it. There were no others. Not a partial, not a smudge. Nowhere in the full circle he'd heard something walk for 6 hours. Marcus is not a man who believes in things. He's told this story to exactly 3 people, and he hates telling it, because there's no ending to it. Nothing that makes it make sense. Something walked a circle around him on 2 feet for most of a night, on ground that takes a print like wet cement, and it did not leave one. He still hikes. He does not camp the Sipsey overnight anymore. Something that circled his camp on 2 feet for 6 hours, on soft ground that takes a print clean and left nothing. Before the next account, tell me what time it is where you are right now. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. We're pushing toward 10,000 subscribers before the end of the month. If this account means something to you, hit subscribe. Everyone counts. And here's what I can answer. It circled him for 6 hours and never once closed in. Was it working up to something the daylight cut short? Or is it worse that it was never going to touch him, and the circling was the whole point because it wanted him to know it could? Drop your answer below. The trail was empty in both directions, so when Elena heard a second set of footsteps fall in behind her, the first thing she felt wasn't fear. It was confusion, because there was nobody there to make them. She was doing a long day hike in the Trinity Alps, solo, well inside her limits. 12 miles, out and back, a route she'd done twice. Mid-afternoon, coming back down. Good light, feeling strong. And somewhere around mile 8 she became aware of a sound just behind her and off to the left, in the brush a few yards off the trail. Footsteps, keeping pace with hers. She stopped. The footsteps stopped. She told herself it was an echo, the way your own steps can bounce off terrain. So she tested it. She walked 10 paces and stopped short. The steps behind her took 10 paces and stopped a beat late. An echo doesn't lag. An echo doesn't keep going after you've stopped. Whatever was in the brush was matching her on purpose, and it was just slightly bad at it. She did what you're told to do with a mountain lion, made herself big, yelled, looked for it. And this is the part she can't shake. She was looking right at the brush where the sound came from. A wall of manzanita maybe 8 feet away, close enough that anything making footfalls that heavy would be right there. Visible. And there was nothing. The brush wasn't moving. The sound was coming from a spot where she could plainly see there was no animal, no person, nothing. She ran. She's not proud of it, but she ran. And the whole way down the sound stayed with her, off the trail, matching her stride and never once showing itself. It kept pace with a running woman through terrain a person would have to crash through, and it made no more noise than a slow walk. She hit the trailhead at dusk, and she has never in her life been so glad to see a parking lot. The next morning, she went back with a friend, in daylight, to prove to herself she'd imagined it. They walked the stretch around mile 8 and looked in the brush where the thing had paced her. The manzanita there is dense. It grows in a tangle you can't move through without breaking branches and leaving a trail a child could follow. There was no trail through it. No broken branches, no bent grass, no track in the dirt underneath. Whatever had matched her stride for a mile through that brush had gone through it without disturbing a single leaf. Elena has a scientific mind. She's spent 2 years trying to build an explanation that fits every detail, and she'll tell you honestly, she doesn't have one. Footsteps that matched her stride for a mile through brush too thick to move through quietly, coming from a spot where she could see nothing was there. Here's what I keep landing on. It could have shown itself the whole way down, and it chose not to. Was it hiding because it didn't want to be seen? Or is it worse that it wasn't hiding at all, and she was looking right at it? Tell me which one you believe. The last account unsettles me most, because a trained animal was there for it. A search dog whose whole job is to follow a track, and it did something I'd never heard a working dog do. That's next. Ben woke his wife at 2 in the morning because something was walking around their car, and by the time she was awake enough to hear it, it was on the roof. They were car camping in the Cranberry backcountry, the two of them, in a small SUV at a primitive site well off the road. It was Rachel's idea. She loved it out there. They'd fallen asleep with the seats down and the windows cracked, and Ben came up out of sleep to a slow, heavy footstep, crunching gravel right beside his door. He froze and listened. It went around the car. Once, slow, all the way around, gravel shifting under real weight. Then the vehicle rocked, just slightly, the way it does when something puts its weight on it, and the footsteps were on the roof. Above their heads, 2 feet standing on the roof of their car, and then nothing. Just weight and the sense of something up there listening to them not breathe. Rachel had her phone. She didn't scream, she didn't run. She called 911, whispering, and a deputy came out, because a call about someone standing on your car in the back country gets taken seriously out there. Whatever was up there was gone before the headlights hit the clearing. They spent the rest of the night in the deputy's cruiser. In the morning, because there'd been a report, they brought a dog, a tracking dog and its handler, part of the county's search and rescue setup, out to see what had actually been in that clearing. The dog would not get out of the truck. The handler said he'd never seen the animal do it. This was a dog that lived to work, that you couldn't hold back on a scent, and it planted itself in the truck bed with its ears flat and would not come down. He carried it to the car himself, set it on the gravel by the fresh scuff marks where the footsteps had been. The dog urinated on itself, pulled against the leash hard enough to choke, and dragged him back toward the truck. The handler had been doing it 19 years. He told them, in the flat voice of a man who did not want to be saying it, that a dog refuses a track for one reason. It has decided following it is more dangerous than disobeying you. He had no idea what stood on their car, but the dog knew something he didn't, and he'd learned a long time ago to trust the dog. There were scuff marks on the roof, no prints anywhere in the gravel that fit anything. Rachel never camped again. Ben told me what he can't get out of his head isn't the weight on the roof, it's the dog. An animal bred across generations to run toward exactly this, taking one read of what was left in that clearing and deciding absolutely that it would rather choke on its own collar than follow it. A tracking dog with 19 years of training that refused to leave the truck, panicked at the scuff marks, and would rather choke than follow whatever stood on that car. Here's the real question. That dog is built to chase the thing everything else runs from. So what does it read in a scent that overrides everything it was bred and trained to do? Is it worse if the dog was simply afraid, or if it understood something about what left that track that we can't, and the fear was the smart response? Tell me which sits worse with you. Subscribe to Obscure Nights right now. 3 people, 3 forests. A hiker circled for a night, a hiker matched for a mile, a couple with something on the roof of their car. None of them ever met, and here's the thread, because it isn't the fear, it's the absence. In every one of these, the thing left no trace. Marcus's camp, on ground that holds a deer track for days. Nothing. Elena's brush, too thick to pass without breaking. Unbroken. The gravel around the car, no print that fit. And in the one case where a trained animal got to weigh in, it took one read and refused to follow. I can't tell you what leaves footsteps and no prints. Neither could they. But there's a practical piece here worth more than the mystery. Lesson 1. If the woods go silent all at once, take it seriously. Wildlife going quiet in unison means something has moved into the space that everything else has decided to stop announcing itself around. Don't investigate it. Get your back to something solid, your light in your hand, and be ready to leave at first light. Lesson 2. If something paces you and won't show itself, do not try to see it, and do not run blind. Every instinct says sprint, and Elena will tell you running didn't lose it. Move deliberately toward open ground, toward your vehicle, toward other people, and keep a clear path in front of you. Lesson 3. Trust the animal. This is the one that matters most. A dog or a horse that refuses ground, that won't follow a scent, that plants itself and will not move, is telling you something your own senses can't. If the animal with you says no, the answer is no. Turn around. Thank you for trusting Obscure Nights with these accounts. If you have an encounter of your own, our submission email is in the channel bio. We read every single one. This is Obscure Nights, where the cases nobody talks about get told the way they actually happened. Good night.